Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Reality Reads, and welcome to yet another edition of Reality Roundup. In today's episode, we are going to be talking mostly and only about The Amazing Race and Dancing with the Stars. I have a lot of thoughts on both of those shows and barely any about Survivor, so we're going to skip over that one for this week. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, let's go ahead and start with Dancing with the Stars, because I think it is no secret to all of us that the scoring for this week was absolutely insane and also simultaneously asinine, because what were they even scoring on? At this point, I need them to actually come forth with what their scoring rubric is, because it was giving me rating books, which is just based off vibes. If you made them cry, you were getting a 9. You didn't make them cry, you were down at the bottom. It made zero sense. Dylan being the top scorer of the night, I don't even think Robert should have been scored as high. I also don't think Whitney should have been scored as high. There were timing and synchronization issues in some of those dances that I just mentioned. And then you had the couple like Elaine and Alan who incorporated their guest throughout majority of their dance and didn't have timing issues. And their dance was just as good, if not better. And they were towards the bottom of the scoreboard. What sense does this make? And it just goes on to further prove what I've been saying all season long about people like Robert and Dylan. They just want to find a way to keep them on the show. I won't say that about Whitney. I still think she was scored a little bit too high this week. But I don't think that they're doing that just to keep her on the show. I think that, I don't know what the deal was with the scoring this week. Whitney shouldn't have scored as high because of the timing issues. It was still good choreography. And, you know, whenever she was on time, it was really good. But I'm just saying that she's kind of proven herself, right? The other two, not so much. Not so much. And the thing of it is, they were giving valid critiques to every single couple. I think that the only critique that they gave that I didn't necessarily agree with was the critique on Topanga. And I didn't hard disagree. It's just not something that I had noticed yet. I haven't felt like her dances have been super repetitive or anything like that, but I wasn't like, oh my gosh, that's out of left field, that's a crazy thing to say or anything like that. It just wasn't something that I had caught on to. But for all of the other critiques that they were giving to everyone, I was like, okay, this makes sense. Valid points were made. Who was it? Was Robert the other person? Either Robert or Dylan had timing issues in their dance as well. I can't remember which of them it was, but they 100% called out the timing issues in Whitney's dance, and they did not mention it for whichever guy it was that was off. And I found that to be very interesting because they made a big point about it in Whitney's, and probably because that was the only critique that they could give her. And because whichever guy it was, they were off for way longer than what Whitney was. But I just can't remember which of the guys it was that was off. But anyways, it was wild. It was wild. I just wish that we could see what the actual scoring rubrics look like, to see, you can have a rubric and still have it be opinion based, but maybe give us what is the weightage of certain aspects, because Whitney was off, but her choreography that she's been given throughout this whole season so far is obviously a lot more challenging than what anyone else is being given. And so like, how much weight does that hold whenever they like score? How much weight does synchronicity count for? Because to me, that should count for a lot, because that's a very basic level dance. It's also like, it happens that you get off on time sometimes. Like it can happen. But I'm just saying that is very like basic level. That should be like, synchronicity and memorization should be like the most weighted things, because they're the most basic things. So anyone should be able to do that when we have a competition where like, obviously technique, experience, all those different kinds of things are going to vary so widely, but those are two things that like anyone should be able to handle, so they should have the most weight in my opinion. And I think that is why I'm struggling so much with some of these high scores for the people that were in the top 3, because they did have synchronicity issues and they still ended up at the top. And it's like kind of wild to me. Not to say that they should have been all the way at the bottom, but just that they shouldn't have been at the top for sure. Like Elaine, again, I keep going back to her as the example because I really think that they did such a great job of incorporating their guest for a good chunk of the dance, and had choreography with all 3 of them together, and they were in time together. Even their guest didn't have memorization issues. It was just like really what I feel like that whole night was supposed to be about. And the fact that they didn't get scored very well is just crazy to me. Like it's just crazy. I really think it's time for Andy to go. I have to say, I know that a lot goes into the fan vote, and I know there's a lot of people that are really rooting for Andy to make it far, but at this point, with everyone else's growth or technique or whatever, so far, this far into the season, for him to be able to stick it out further than anyone else that we currently have, it will be disappointing for me. I'll be honest. I think he's great. I think he's an entertaining person, but this is a dance competition, and even he at this point is confused as to why he's still there. And he'd probably love for this journey to end so that he doesn't have to continue rehearsals for any longer. Like, genuinely, I feel like that is probably true. So I'm really hoping that Andy is the one to go this week. Moving on to The Amazing Race, I thought we had a really good episode this week. Wasn't really all that mad about the couple that went home. They were entertaining, but they were really struggling week after week, so I was kind of fine with it. I thought the fast forward added a really interesting element to everything. I thought that it would not take Tucker as long to catch on to the whole Rubik's Cube situation, because if you watch him on Big Brother, you know he loves puzzles. And so I was kind of surprised to see how long that took them to get. However, not surprised that they ended up getting it. I was fully expecting him to, and I thought it was funny that Eric did better than him at the whole Rubik's Cube thing, just because I wasn't expecting it. It just goes to show how strong of a team they are, that they are both good at not only the physical, but the mental stuff as well, which we knew about Tucker. We didn't know about Eric yet. So that was interesting to see for sure. I was surprised that like Jag and Jazz didn't at least give it a go, but I don't know. I don't know how that would have gone for them. I mean, Jag seems to be good at literally everything, and Jazz seems pretty smart as well. So I would be curious just to know like how they would have fared in that situation. But now we're going into this next leg, and Eric and Tucker are going to have such a big lead against everyone. And I'm like, is this where they just kind of like almost steamroll the rest of this season? Because it's their lead that they have. Like, they are going to have to make a like huge detrimental mistake to end up dropping. So I don't know. I will be interested to see how the rest of this plays out for that team specifically, because after this leg, they have such a huge lead. Speaking of Jag and Jazz, I absolutely hated the whole taxi situation with them this week. whenever I was watching the episode, I was so confused whenever they couldn't find a taxi. I was like, okay, did I miss? Like, I almost rewound the episode a little bit to see, but I just kept watching instead. But I was like, was there a certain, like, spot that all the other teams had been standing at that they, like, didn't see that they were supposed to be there in order to get a taxi? And then whenever we find out that it's simply just because they had turbans, I'm like, oh, this is absolutely terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. It's just awful, but at least it didn't end up costing them the whole entire race. Obviously, they dropped down several different spots. They were, team 1 and 2 for so long, and now they're more in the middle. I think they're not going to have any issue at all working their way back up. They'll be just fine. But it was really frustrating to see that happen. I thought that the whole horse challenge was really interesting to watch. And there were people that did well and people that struggled that surprised me. Oh my gosh, Simone, that one time where she had gone through everything correctly and then the horse just stops right in front of the finish line and she had like 5 seconds to go and the horse just would not go. Oh, I was so frustrated. I was so frustrated for her in that moment. And I can't imagine how frustrating that had to feel on her end, because I was yelling at the TV. I was like, go horse, go. Like, let them pass. And yeah, didn't happen. That was a fun challenge to watch, in my opinion. And then the dancing and the juggling, barely anyone chose the juggling. What was it? Just the 2 teams, Taylor and Kylan, and then Joseph and Adam. Joseph and Adam sticking out the juggling so long was insane. They must be absolutely atrocious dancers. Absolutely atrocious for them to stick out the juggling for as long as they did, because oh my goodness, that was crazy. 134 attempts. And what's even crazier is they didn't even end up in that bad of a spot. Didn't even end up in that bad of a spot after 134 attempts. It just goes to show either how much of a lead they really had on everyone else, or just how long other teams took to really get the dance down. Also, I just finished my BB Watch Club live and we were kind of chatting about this in that live, but we were talking about how there was a whole bit on the episode where Kat was talking about how she does have a dance background, but she only knows how to learn in 8 counts. And the person that was teaching them could not teach them in 8 counts. So, but like, if you pay close attention to the person that's teaching Hannah and Simone, they're being taught in 8 counts. So it's wild that honestly, we probably could have had a different outcome for the person being eliminated if Kat and Alex just chose like a different person to be their teacher or whatever. I'm trying to find out, and I'll have to follow up, but my assumption is that once you choose like your teacher or coach or whoever at those challenges, that you can't then switch them up, because I don't know why they wouldn't have switched to that person after Hannah and Simone left if they were able to. Because you could clearly hear Hannah and Simone being taught in 8 counts. And that's exactly what Kat wanted. And I almost wonder if, like, editing wise, because she had her bit before they showed the part where you can hear them being taught in 8 counts. But I'm almost wondering if that conversation, if it was like the reverse of that, and Kat actually had heard them being taught in 8 counts and then was like, well, if I was being taught in 8 counts, I'd be doing just fine. You know what I mean? Like, if that prompted that conversation. But yeah, I found that to be very interesting, that decision could have totally changed their performance together. And yeah, I haven't watched Chada's podcast episode yet this week, but I'm curious if she mentions anything about that. If she does, maybe I'll leave it in like a comment down below or something like that. But because I do think I'm going to watch that tonight. A really good episode in my opinion. I'm glad they, even though Tucker and Eric, they've kind of been towards the top, but they haven't been team one yet. But I do really like how this episode caused everything as far as like who finished where in the leg to get kind of shaken up. Like Taylor and Kylan, they jumped up several spots in their finishing spot. So I'm really interested to see how next week's episode plays out. We have the whole double U-turn situation, which I think is going to bring some drama. And yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited for next week's episode. I'm really loving this season of Amazing Race, and I think it's been really, really good so far. But I think that about wraps it up for today's video. Like I said in the beginning, I didn't really have very many thoughts on Survivor. It's still kind of hard for me to find this season all that entertaining. Obviously still rooting for Sophie B, but I think I have 100% decided that if she doesn't make it to the end, as soon as she is out of the game, I'm checking out, because I'm just not really finding the season enjoyable so far. But that's literally like my only thoughts about Survivor. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts on these episodes for this week were. Make sure you check out my 13 Nights of Halloween series. We have a spooky reading vlog that will be dropping later tonight, so definitely come back for that. And I will see you in the next video.